Hi there and welcome. This is Book of Mormon Reader, and we are going to be reading Ether 10 today. The Book of Mormon, Ether, chapter 10. And it came to pass that Shez, who was a descendant of Heth, for Heth had perished by the famine, and all his household, save it were Shez, wherefore Shez began to build up again a broken people. And it came to pass that Shez did remember the destruction of his fathers, and he did build up a righteous kingdom, for he remembered what the Lord had done in bringing Jared and his brother across the deep, and he did walk in the ways of the Lord, and he begat sons and daughters. And his eldest son, whose name was Shez, did rebel against him. Nevertheless, Shez was smitten by the hand of a robber because of his exceeding riches, which brought peace again unto his father. And it came to pass that his father did build up many cities upon the face of the land, and the people began again to spread over all the face of the land. And Shez did live to an exceedingly old age, and he begat Riplakish. And he died, and Riplakish reigned in his stead. And it came to pass that Riplakish did not do that which was right in the sight of the Lord, for he did have many wives and concubines, and did lay that upon men's shoulders which was grievous to be borne. Yea, he did tax them with heavy taxes, and with the taxes he did build many spacious buildings. And he did erect him an exceedingly beautiful throne, and he did build many prisons. And whoso would not be subject unto taxes, he did cast into prison. And whoso was not able to pay taxes, he did cast into prison. And he did cause that they should labor continually for their support. And whoso refused to labor, he did cause to be put to death. Wherefore he did obtain all his fine work, yea, even his fine gold he did cause to be refined in prison. And all manner of fine workmanship he did cause to be wrought in prison. And it came to pass that he did afflict the people with his whoredoms and abominations. And when he had reigned for the space of 42 years, the people did rise up in rebellion against him. And there began to be war again in the land, insomuch that Riplakish was killed, and his descendants were driven out of the land. And it came to pass after the space of many years, Morianton, he being a descendant of Riplakish, gathered together an army of outcasts, and went forth and gave battle unto the people. And he gained power over many cities. And the war became exceedingly sore, and did last for the space of many years. And he did gain power over all the land, and did establish himself king over all the land. And after that he had established himself king, he did ease the burden of the people, by which he did gain favor in the eyes of the people, and they did anoint him to be their king. And he did do justice unto the people, but not unto himself, because of his many whoredoms, wherefore he was cut off from the presence of the Lord. And it came to pass that Morianton built up many cities, and the people became exceedingly rich under his reign, both in buildings, and in gold and silver, and in raising grain, and in flocks and herds, and such things which had been restored unto them. And Morianton did live to an exceedingly great age, and then he begat Kim, and Kim did reign in the stead of his father, and he did reign 8 years, and his father died. And it came to pass that Kim did not reign in righteousness, wherefore he was not favored of the Lord. And his brother did rise up in rebellion against him, by which he did bring him into captivity, and he did remain in captivity all his days. And he begat sons and daughters in captivity, and in his old age he begat Levi, and he died. And it came to pass that Levi did serve in captivity after the death of his father for the space of 42 years, and he did make war against the king of the land, by which he did obtain unto himself the kingdom. And after he had obtained unto himself the kingdom, he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, and the people did prosper in the land. And he did live to a good old age, and begat sons and daughters. And he also begat Coram, whom he anointed king in his stead. And it came to pass that Coram did that which was good in the sight of the Lord all his days, and he begat many sons and daughters. And after he had seen many days, he did pass away, even like unto the rest of his death. And Kish reigned in his stead. And it came to pass that Kish passed away also, and Lib reigned in his stead. And it came to pass that Lib also did that which was good in the sight of the Lord. And in the days of Lib the poisonous serpents were destroyed. Wherefore they did go into the land southward, to hunt food for the people of the land, for the land was covered with animals of the forest. And Lib also himself became a great hunter. And they built a great city by the narrow neck of the land, by the place where the sea divides the land. And they did preserve the land southward for a wilderness, to get game. And the whole face of the land northward was covered with inhabitants. And they were exceedingly industrious, and they did buy and sell and traffic one with another, that they might get gain. And they did work in all manner of ore, and they did make gold and silver and iron and brass and all manner of metals. And they did dig it out of the earth, wherefore they did cast up mighty heaps of earth, to get ore of gold and of silver and of iron and of copper. And they did work all manner of fine work. And they did have silks and fine twined linen, and they did work all manner of cloth, that they might clothe themselves from their nakedness. And they did make all manner of tools to till the earth, both to plow and to sow, to reap and to hoe, and also to thrash. And they did make all manner of tools with which they did work their beasts. And they did make all manner of weapons of war, and they did work all manner of work of exceedingly curious workmanship. And never could be a people more blessed than were they, and more prospered by the hand of the Lord. And they were in a land that was choice above all lands, for the Lord had spoken it. And it came to pass that Lib did live that sounds funny. Lib did live many years, and begat sons and daughters. And he also begat Haartham. And it came to pass that Haartham reigned in the stead of his father. And when Haartham had reigned 24 years, behold, the kingdom was taken away from him. And he served many years in captivity, yea, even all the remainder of his days. And he begat Heth, and Heth lived in captivity all his days. And Heth begat Aaron, and Aaron dwelt in captivity all his days. And he begat Amnigaddah, and Amnigaddah also dwelt in captivity all his days. And he begat Coriantum, and Coriantum dwelt in captivity all his days. And he begat Com. And it came to pass that Com drew away half of the kingdom, and he reigned over the half of the kingdom 42 years. And he went to battle against the king Amgid, and they fought for the space of many years, during which time Com gained power over Amgid, and obtained power over the remainder of the kingdom. And in the days of Com there began to be robbers in the land, and they adopted the old plans, and administered oaths after the manner of the ancients, and sought again to destroy the kingdom. Now Com did fight against them much, nevertheless he did not prevail against them. Well, thanks if you're still listening for my commentary. I had some little thoughts that came to me as I was reading, even though I sometimes search for things just before I read and try to have a prayer to gain some special insights, because along with you. This is my personal scripture study time too, and so you just sort of get to hear the musings that are going on in my head as I'm reading this. So let me just kind of scroll back up to the top, since I read from the online version of LDS.org, so that I can concentrate on what I'm doing and just gently scroll down. And first of all, how about the names, huh? Shez, Heth, Amgid. Just as a matter of reference, right after the Book of Mormon on your paper copy, they have a pronouncing guide. So if you're not sure how to pronounce some words, rather than skip over them, take a quick second and turn to that page. It's pretty interesting to hear. It's just, I think it's just 2 pages. It's actually 4 pages. Well, 3.5 really. And they give the pronouncing guide of how to say their names. So anyway, so that was one of the things that before I checked it, it looked like one of the names was Hartham, but it says Hayartham. So anyway, I just want to make sure that I pronounce things appropriately. Why does it matter? Well, how do you pronounce your name? How do you like people to mess up pronouncing your name? I don't. Anyway, so I think it just lends a little bit of respect and gives you pause to see this person's name. And more interestingly than that, how did Joseph Smith know that? How to pronounce their names? So in a great way, perhaps this is a little piece of inspiration that we get to see how names are pronounced. So what the heck, it's there. It's there to be looked at and used and honored, so let's. Now, just scrolling down here, starting from the beginning, interesting that Shez, this word here, he did remember the destruction of his fathers, and he did build up a righteous kingdom. For he remembered what the Lord had done. So this word again, remember. And also that Shez, he chose to learn from other people's mistakes. We've heard that wise people learn from their own mistakes, but that truly wise people learn from other mistakes. And so this sort of gives me a little bit of insight into Shez, that he was a truly wise person, and he wanted to do the right thing before the Lord. And then, of course, as goes the days, his next verse, in verse 3, his son did rebel against him. And and then it says he was smitten by the hand of a robber. Interesting, it said it brought peace again unto his father. So, interesting. I don't know if that means that he was smitten, that means he was killed. And why did that bring peace to his father, that his son was killed? Was it because he was, finally taken out of his rebellion and brought back into, immortality? I mean, back in the heavens? I don't know. That's an interesting question. Now, the other thing that's interesting too, when Rip Lakish comes, Rip Lakish is... He's a bad guy. Besides his name being crazy to say, Rip Lakish. Let me just double check that. Yeah, Rip Lakish. He does several things here, which is an indicator too of, so when somebody doesn't have the Spirit with them and they're not being one of the good guys, that they just sort of immerse themselves in bad stuff. I mean, just total bad stuff. And he goes from having many wives and concubines, and then he moves out his badness, not just enough to ruin his own life and the life of these women who are now living unrighteously for participating in what he's doing. But now he moves outward, and he lays upon the people that he's governing that it says that the tax was grievous to be borne, and he taxed them with heavy taxes. And then what did he do with it? It says he built many spacious buildings. Now, it's pretty much impossible for me not to read the scriptures and liken them to me today, because I have been trained and disciplined to search for these kinds of things while I'm reading. Furthermore, it has been revealed to us that these scriptures were preserved for us in our day, and that's why they have been unearthed, as for us to gain from their existence. And so that I look at these and say, okay, well, what's happening where I live? You know, if you don't live in America, look what's happening where you live. I mean, I can look on the world scene and see in Greece this has happened, that this tax was so heavily taxed. And in France just now, they're taxing the wealthy 75% of their income, and so they're leaving. The wealthy are leaving France. And so when by their choice they leave the country, then there are no more wealthy people, and then the people, the whole nation starts to suffer. So this is absolutely applicable, not just to America, but to other countries too, where each place right now, boom, 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 they're falling and falling and falling because of this idea that they're being taxed with heavy taxes. Now, I wonder why it says what he did with the taxes. He did build many spacious buildings. Interesting. That, were they saying that he didn't need it, he was wasting their money? Because I certainly feel that about American taxes. I've heard that there was an airport built in Alaska where there are no roads and no bridges to get to this airport. So there's basically no that's a waste of our money. Also, a turtle pass. And also, you can hear on Bill O'Reilly, he has a whole thing on a $16 muffin that we were being billed for the excess of people who are in the government taking exorbitant conference entitlements, and that's what they were billed, $16 a muffin. Give me a break. So this is huge. I mean, this whole thing is still continuing today in the year 2012. And furthermore, it is grievous to be born. The people who are working with this, it is grievous to be born. They're suffering more than ever. And they're losing their homes. I mean, I know personally, and I mean, firsthand have seen what this is like. And also, the other thing that's happening currently in the news is that there is proposed another tax on the wealthy people. And it's the big fiscal cliff that's going on. And today, trending on Twitter is hashtag 2K. And what it means is when they have this tax stopped, this tax cut stopped, that the average middle class family will have $2,200 less because they'll have to pay more taxes. And what would you do with that extra $2,000? It's kind of fascinating. Some people were saying it was their son or daughter's piano lessons and their school sports. Somebody else said it was a vacation. Somebody else said it was certain bills. And so, you're not going to be getting any more for the work that you're doing that's the same. You're actually going to be that much more in the hole. So if you happen to be listening live today, you can trend on Twitter and check out that hashtag 2K and say, what do the American people say that they could do with that money? I think that people can make a better use of their own money than can the government, who spends it willy-nilly, without any honor to the people who are working for it. Interesting too that the penalties that they list here, it says he did erect himself an exceedingly beautiful throne, and then he built prisons, and who wouldn't pay the taxes would be cast into prison. And tax evasion is punishable by going into prison. So that part's the same that they do. Um, and whoso refused to labor in verse 6, he did cause to be put to death. Now, so far, we're not quite that bad. They don't kill people who won't pay their taxes. In fact, in our thing, they sort of honor the people who aren't paying taxes, and they give them more. They give them entitlements. They give them welfare. They give them all kinds of things. And so we're not equal. We're not an equal people. And there's a great case for person A and person B by this guy named Andrew Wilkow, who talks about, if person A feels entitled to things that they didn't work for, and person B is the one who has the responsibility, one has the right, person A, and B has the responsibility, then really they're not equal, because person A is having a claim upon the life, the liberty, and the property of person B. And some people who, they think, oh, I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to this. When it's just taken and it's distributed through these cards, debit cards or whatever, it becomes this faceless way that they think it's an endless pit of money, where if they had to actually go and take it from the people who they are taking it from, they might think a little bit differently. One of my Facebook friends posts, she's we are opposed politically, and she posts about women's rights to have their contraception paid for and everything, and all these different things that she feels that the government should pay for. Well, the government has no money. The government doesn't make any money. They take money. And who do they take it from? They take it from the people. And when you think about you're taking from one and you're giving to another, that's stealing. It's stealing. And that's the major problem with this whole idea that the government can provide. The government doesn't have anything. When they print money, it has no value. And that's another problem that is going on right now in the world. All of these things are absolutely are so prevalent in today's world. Look at verse 7. He's getting all his fine work and his fine gold. Gold still has a lasting value. It seems to be one of the things of intrinsic value. And I have a joke about gold that is this the appropriate time to tell it? Maybe I'll tell it. Because of our extreme attachment to the value of gold, and how with all of this money that's being printed from the government to monetize their own debt, they are devaluing the dollar. And so the price of gold is so high right now. I mean, compared from a few years ago, it's probably 5 times what it was just in the last few years, because of the value of the dollar. And so this guy, he dies, and he finds himself, a very wealthy man on earth, he finds himself at the pearly gates, and he says, well, wait a second here. Please, how come I can't bring anything with me? Please, can I bring something with me? I just had so much to bring with me. And the person at the pearly gate says, this is a highly unusual request. And he says, please, if I could just bring a suitcase full of my earthly possessions, please, I was a good person, and if I could just have this one request granted. So he said, well, let me check with let me check with my superior, and I'll get back with you. And he's standing. Please let me bring some things from my earthly life. And he comes back and he goes, well, you know what? Today we made history. I've never seen anybody who comes into the pearly gates bring anything except for themselves and their love of people and their knowledge that they had. But an exception has been granted, and you can bring a suitcase full of whatever you want. And everybody was like, what? This big crowd was gathering. What's he going to bring? And so he comes with this suitcase, and everybody is just the news has gotten out that somebody was allowed to bring a suitcase into heaven with them. And they thought, what would he bring? What kind of earthly treasures could you possibly want that much that you'd bring them in with you into heaven? And more than that, what kind of a request is that? What kind of a man is he that the big guy would grant him this request? So it was, they had this big thing. Please don't open it until we're all here to see what it is. And finally, they're waiting, and he wants to open his suitcase and unveil, his treasure that he brought. And he opened his suitcase, and everybody went, oh, this big collective gasp. And then they saw what it was, and it was gold. It was as much gold that he could jam into this suitcase, and it was piling and just gleaming, shimmering with this beautiful sparkly gold. And all of a sudden, when they realized what it was, they all broke out in laughter. And they're like, and he thought, why are they laughing? This is so valuable. I mean, yes, I got to bring my gold. And he heard somebody shout out, pavement? That's what he brought? Pavement? And they all started laughing because, of course, as we have all heard, the streets of heaven are paved with gold. So that's my little joke for today about gold. Now, let me just keep scrolling down here back to our chapter, which I just have a couple minutes left. Verse 8, boy, this bad guy, he reigned for 42 years, and finally they ousted him, and there was a war. That this is the thing, you can't just oust somebody with a vote, I guess. You have to have a war. And recently, in our rebellion to the election, there were a series of states that wanted to secede from the Union of the United States peacefully. Well, I got news for you. It's not going to happen peacefully, and you can't just bow out of the United States. What we need is a better solution. I heard a fantastic speech this morning from Newt Gingrich at the Nixon library, doing a book tour with his wife about their American Patriot book tour, they called it. And it was so great. It was so great. I urge you to listen to it, because he, without apology and without whining, said why we need to teach better, why being a conservative is a good course, why it's the best thing, and talks about the freedoms. And you think, why do you think it's important to have freedom, to let people choose? Why do you think that this nation was preserved as a free nation? Well, because if it's not free, then the Lord's plan of people choosing their life can't be in effect. That's why it's so critical to have freedom, that we need to be free to choose, and to demonstrate to our Lord that we choose him, that we want to choose him, we want to obey his commandments. There's so much more here too about the people having slave labor camps and how horrible that is, and using people to further somebody else and taking away their freedoms to build yourself up. But I'm going to close for today, and we'll have to revisit this, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for joining today. Have a wonderful day.